mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome everybody on in to the Saturday Night Network for our penultimate edition of the Hot Take Show for season 49, here to cover Mother, Maya Rudolph, with musical guest Vampire Weekend. So excited to talk about this one. So great to get Maya Rudolph back in the building to host for her third time. And I am so excited to be here. Obviously, my name is John from the Saturday Night Network, and I'm here with two great guests tonight and a great group of friends in the chat. We're going to talk all about this episode. Want to thank our presenting partner for tonight's episode, and that would be latenighter.com. All right, let's bring in our panelists. First up, making her return to the Hot Take Show for the first time, I think, in a couple years, it is Rebecca North. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. I think this is only my second ever Hot Take Show. And I mean, I'm a huge Maya Rudolph. Like, she's in my top 3 SNL cast members of all time. So I was so excited to be here and be able to come and join the Hot Take Show with 2 of my favorite people to podcast with.
Very nice. Well, I'm excited to talk through this episode with you and somebody joining us who is, one of the hosts of the SNL Hall of Fame podcast, and recently talked to Rebecca about Maya Rudolph. So it's perfect synergy to get him on the podcast with us tonight, and that is the legendary Thomas Sena. Thomas, how are you?
Hey, doing great tonight, Rebecca. Likewise, one of my favorite people to talk to. You really killed it on the SNL Hall of Fame this year, talking about Maya Rudolph. But I'm excited to talk about this episode. I think it was a fun one, and yeah, I'm glad to be on here for the second time. First time with you, John.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. You were there when I wasn't last time, but I am very excited to talk through this with you. So, as we do every single week when there's a new SNL episode, we're going to talk through our hot takes and headlines, go sketch by sketch, and rate the episode from tonight. So, if you're joining us, maybe you're home with family for Mother's Day, I appreciate you staying up late and talking through this episode tonight with us. So, let's start, Rebecca, with any hot takes or headlines from the night. How are you feeling about the Maya Rudolph episode?
Okay, so I actually am going to come with a kind of different take than me raving about how she belongs in the Hall of Fame last time. I don't discount that, but I think this was of the weaker episodes of the entire season. And I was very excited. The perfect viewing opportunity. I don't get the opportunity to watch live a lot of Saturday nights. And when I do, I feel like my emotions are extra heightened and I'm like extra giddy and laugh more. And I was just feeling a little dry. I watched with my mom for Mother's Day, and we just kind of I don't know, I wasn't obsessed with this. And I know we'll dive into like the specific sketches and hopefully the monologue, but it started so strong for me and kind of similar to the Ryan Gosling episode where I was like, this is a killer monologue. This is only going to continue to go up from there. I thought it peaked at her first appearance on the screen, which only means it's downhill from there. So I don't know if it was potentially just the monologue was so strong that everything else didn't feel that way. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed to be giving not the most positive review of this episode, in my opinion.
Well, we love the honesty, so we're going to talk it through. Maybe your rating will change as we go through the different sketches tonight. But Thomas,
It usually does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the fun of it, right? We got to talk through this live. We just saw this cold, so we're really just going off our initial feelings. Thomas, how are you feeling about the show tonight? Any hot takes or headlines?
Yeah, I think it was a very vibes-laden episode. I agree with Rebecca. It started off really well, and then started to peter off throughout the episode. So I was kind of left feeling a little that way by the end of the episode. But my hot take is short and sweet. SNL moms are a lot funnier than SNL cold opens. That was refreshing. Don't usually like the cold opens, but the SNL moms I really enjoyed.
Yes, that is really nice, and we're going to get into that momentarily. So a couple headlines for me from what I saw tonight. One is Maya always, every time she comes back or every time I get to see her host, it truly amazes me just how hard she works. I really feel like, you're never going to, I know she's a former cast member and naturally she's inclined to lead a sketch, but you're never going to have her in a role where she's not like carrying or at least trying to carry the sketch on her back. And I think that she's the type of cast member that is like able to carry the weight of a sketch, make a bad sketch good, make a good good sketch great. I think she has that in her. So for me, I really enjoyed getting to see her work. And I do think she's slightly underappreciated from her time as a cast member. And I think over time, it's come out a little bit more how much people have enjoyed her work. So I like nights like this where we get to see somebody work so hard on the show. I, like you, Rebecca, I definitely felt like the show peaked early. I felt like the first half of the show pre-update was a really, really strong half of the show. I would say based on the first half, and we'll go through those sketches, I'd say it's one of the better episodes this season. I didn't really care as much for the back half of the show, and that's tough, right? Like when a show falls off a cliff like that, that's always it hurts for me. So, we'll talk it through because there was little things I picked out here and there in the back half, but I really felt like the first half was extremely strong, starting with our cold open that we had tonight, where it seems like, going back to season 40, I think it was in the Reese Witherspoon monologue. Then season 43, there was the cold open. Season 46, cold open, and now season 49. So it feels like every 3 years, SNL decides to invite all the mothers to come in for a special moment. Last time was in that Elon Musk episode where we had Miley Cyrus with all the moms. So here we got Keenan with his mom, Andrew with his mom, Chloe, Punky, Mikey, Trost, Molly, Longfellow, Devin, JJ, Marcelo, Ego, Sarah, PDD, sort of. They say they're sort of in the cast. They had their fake dads there, Colin with his mom and Bone with his mom as well. And we all get little bits of them doing their thing on stage and a group live from New York. So these are always really heartwarming. Of course, a very different type of cold open that you would get on any other episode. So Rebecca, how'd you feel about our Mother's Day cold open tonight?
I loved it. As I said, I watched with my mom, and she was asking if she can come make a cameo in the podcast tonight in honor of Mother's Day, but unfortunately, she didn't stay awake past the news today. So, as she calls it, it's Weekend Update, but she always calls it the news. So she was asleep. But I loved it. It was so sweet. I mean, we always see the cast playing other roles, but playing themselves and letting their parents shine is something that I always really enjoy, and some of the jokes were honestly pretty funny. It was heartwarming. They did touch on some of like the things happening in the world that they probably could have portrayed in a cold open, but it was really just lighthearted. Some of the jokes were great. I mean, Marcelo talking about his mom, that was funny. I think Bowen and Colin together with their parents. I'm a huge Bowen fan. If you ever listen to me on this podcast, and listening to him tell stories on his podcast, Las Culturistas, about his mom and then seeing her is just funny because it just makes a lot of sense, her fibbing the line a little and him having to help her. And yeah, it was really heartwarming and just a really good way to start the episode. And also, I think, really set the tone for the fact that, as we know, it's a super saturated cast this season, and every sketch was super saturated with the cast as well. Like, we were seeing such huge volume of cast members, and I think the cold open kind of set the tone. I don't know, it was heartwarming the way that I was like, oh, your moms are all here to see you, and they're really letting everyone get their chance to shine tonight. So I really liked it.
I feel like when, especially for this cold open, it really showcased how far SNL has come with regards to diversity. So, we've criticized for a long time about, host choices, cast, makeups and stuff like that. But when you have like a cold open like this and you get to see like the different types of people and their families come out, and I think it was one of the moms was talking about how like nice it was that they all came from like different places, might have like different, political leanings, but they can all come together from around the world to celebrate Mother's Day like this. And I actually thought that like uplifted this cold open more than some of the other Mother's Day ones that we've seen. Thomas, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it was really refreshing, the cold open. I usually come into cold opens every week with the lowest of the low expectations. I always come in with like, just try. Like, don't rip word for word from the headlines. Just try. Show me that you're trying to be clever. But I like, though, that they, on Mother's Day, they went away from trying to rip from the headlines. They went away from topical. And I love what they did here. I remember the ones that you had mentioned, John, in the past. So I was halfway hoping that maybe we'll see something like that. So it was very refreshing. I thought Chloe Fineman's mom with like a real spicy joke. I loved that. A lot of the delivery was honestly from the moms like really good. Like, they're not professionals, obviously, but I enjoyed like most of their deliveries. Like, they seemed really like into it. They seemed pretty much comfortable. So I really was pleasantly surprised, and I thought the show got off to a great start because of this.
Yeah, I thought Mikey Day's mom, Sylvia, was really great when she was talking about the Beavis and Butthead sketch and how she's
Mhm.
Butthead's mom. I thought that was really cute. Even Marcello's mom, who you may have seen when Marcello was on Late Night, talking about he grew up so fast and how Che gave her his phone number. There's some really cute things here. But overall, I mean, just from an SNL, meta production analysis perspective, I again have been advocating week after week that whether it's in the monologue or the cold open, this cast has limited themselves in terms of portraying themselves on screen. And for us on social media, we're checking out everything these cast members are doing all the time. We know these people, but the casual audience doesn't. And what this cold open does is allow you to get to know the cast members a little bit more, get to know their quirks, their personalities, why they're different from each other. Like, can you go to a person walking down the street who may watch SNL sometimes and ask them the difference between Michael Longfellow and Marcelo Hernandez? They may not know, but at least then they watch this, they do. So then when they go and they watch the sketches that happen later, they can then buy in from getting to know these cast members. So that's why these moments like this are so important beyond just Mother's Day. It really is what the fabric of SNL was made to be, which is that these are people who are also performing, and it's the layers that is important to look at from an SNL fan perspective. So love this opening tonight. Let's head over
Yeah, wait,
to
and
the
key
monologue.
takeaway, though, Punky
Sorry,
is
so yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
jacked. Punky's jacked.
Yeah, she is.
She,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Oh
Sorry,
my
yeah.
No,
God.
she's been focused on working out. If you follow her on Instagram, she's always posting like workout videos. She
I'm just not
eats
on
well.
Instagram, like,
Oh
scrolling.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she eats well. She shows she like cooks in her dressing room and makes all these great meals, and she works out and all this
Crazy.
stuff. So, but I didn't know she was even that jacked when she
I
flexed.
literally couldn't get past it. To be able to
Right.
see such defined muscles on a camera
Yeah,
is, like, really telling. So I do feel like I know them better now. As
for
someone
sure.
that is a super fan, I had no clue.
Yeah.
Between cooking 5-course meals in her dressing room, she's working out. So good for Funky. Honestly, great cold open. Let's talk about the monologue that we saw tonight, where Maya Rudolph comes out and talks about how she's a 4-time mom. Bowen and Sarah come out as themselves again, like something I really love to see, to say she's not just a mom, she's mother. And a lot of euphemisms there about being mother. Keenan is playing Mr. Infinity Decor, if I got that right. This is Maya's house now, mother of the house of Rockefeller, and we get this whole musical monologue where she's going to walk around on stage, this set design, background dancers, references to other sketches. Who coined sweater weather? You get a car made of leather. This place gave you cone heads. It's 11:30. Go to bed. Like, a lot of really fun references to past SNL. We also get to see Punky, Devin, Trost, and Marcello as well. Thomas, how are you feeling about Maya's monologue tonight?
Yeah, if there's a couple things that I really love about monologues, John, it's one, like a song and dance monologue from especially like a confident former cast member. Think of like a Martin Short type of thing. Like, I love those. And then I'm a sucker for backstage monologues. Give me a tour of the backstage and let's do something creative there. So it was a combination of two things that I love about a monologue. So I honestly thought this was great. Like, this is part of like the show starting with just maximum good vibes all around. We had a strong cold open leading into this super, super fun monologue. We had the whole cast again getting involved, a lot of elaborate stage, not only on home base, but backstage as well. So I was a sucker for this. This was like right up my alley. So great start. Might have been, I don't know, I'll have to just go back and check. It might have been my favorite monologue of the whole season.
Yeah, for me, it's still Kristen's, but I do think that this was so different, right? It's not like you're okay, we're gonna just see how many friends that we have at the show and invite them up here. This is like Maya leading this moment, and the energy was so high there. Like, it's exactly what you want to start your show. Rebecca, how are you feeling about this monologue?
Oh, I just couldn't have loved it more. I think what you mentioned about diversity of the cast in general, I think we're seeing a lot more these days. There's just a lot of cultural references, a lot of gay references that we've been seeing in some of the sketches, like due to the diversity of the writing cast and also the cast as well, just being themselves and really showing it off. And I mean, so mother is a huge word that's like Gen Z gay, like jargon or whatever you would call that.
I
And
was
it's
going
just
to
like someone
ask
that's
for a
just
little bit
so
of an
great.
explainer, Rebecca. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, you're speaking like how I speak with my friends when we go out in the way that, so mother is just like you're so good. It's just Mother, like
I
Maya
think
Rudolph is Mother,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
think it
I
showed
was able
that.
to, as an old guy, I was able to pick up on what they were talking about, but at first, I'm not really familiar with, like,
Yeah.
that lingo and how it's used, but I was able to, like, pick up on it in the end, but again, yeah,
I
I
think it kinda started from, like, looking at, like, pop divas and icons being like, "Oh,
Oh,
and then
okay.
she's so Mother for that," and
Got it.
I was able to see Madonna on the Celebration tour in New York, and it was really a big reference to that because, obviously, Vogue, Madonna, and the song, and then Beyoncé had it as well with different versions of the song, and in terms of, like, the pop culture and the references that Beyoncé then took Vogue and did that. So on the Celebration tour with Madonna that she's still on right now, it's a lot in the Vogue part, and what they do is they bring a celebrity, like, cameo up every time for the section of Vogue where they have, like,
Mm,
full ballroom performance. So if you, like, look up ballroom, like, standard in, like, the LGBTQ scene and the drag scene, it's really big, and Madonna was a huge part of that, so they have a bunch of performers and drag queens come and dance for Vogue, and then they do the tens, and the judges and whoever, like, the guest cameo judges does the 10, so it was really all, like, a reference to what's going on right now with Madonna, and if people, like, wait
ah,
to see every night who she brings on stage, it's I don't know, every, like, big tour these days has something that's like Taylor Swift's acoustic song, and surprise that, it's Madonna's Vogue portion, so that's also really big, and the words change sometimes, so this was just very, very topical in a way that, like, you could enjoy it if you didn't know, but for me, where it's like, I saw the tour, I this is how I speak with my friends, it was just, like, really just on point in a way that I super appreciated, but also my parents really appreciated because it was just uplifting and fun.
Nice. I mean, Maya, like, she can command the room. And I think that was what was evident here is that, like, as she's walking towards the backstage, as a part of this whole bit, like, the confidence, I know she's a natural performer beyond just being a sketch performer. Like, she can sing, she's performed with bands, she's performed with Vampire Weekend. So, like, for me, like, this felt like, where I may compare this a little bit to the Gosling monologue, where we get a lot of the Barbie and Oppenheimer references. Like, that to me felt a little bit more shoehorned in. This felt like this was like attending like a Maya Rudolph concert almost, and like really just taking control, walking around and following her. Like, it honestly gave me chills. Like, I really, really loved the energy that she brought tonight to that.
And the cast energy was really fun too, like, I couldn't stop watching Devin dance when they were on stage, like, that's where my
Yeah.
eyes went. I
yeah.
was like, everyone's just having a really good time, and I think that's what you were saying earlier with just, like, Maya's energy backstage, like, she was part of the cast in this. This wasn't, like, a monologue of someone, she was back in, you could tell they all really liked her and were just having a time, and, like, she crushed it, and
Yeah.
yeah, I was just, like, wowed. It was really great.
It was awesome. Imagine being in the house to see that. I mean, for everybody who was there, I must have really loved it. So, all right, let's go to our first sketch after the monologue, where we are getting a reprise of a season 46 sketch when Maya hosted, where she played Beyonce on Hot Ones. And this time she's back to talk about Cowboy Carter, her country album, and a little bit of a similar beats to what we got last time, where she takes a wing and, she's like, okay, it's not that bad. But then she goes to the 530,000 level wing and sweat starts coming down and starts singing and speaking in tongues. We get an appearance from Keenan. Last time he was to Michelangelo. This time he was to Raphael, trying to help her as much as he could. Eventually, we just get, it just keeps escalating. They have to blur her as she's about to burp. This pours milk on Sean Evans. It just really gets crazier and crazier. And I remember in season 46 watching this one, and I really liked it. And I do feel like this was escalated from the first one. Like, it was better than what we got the first time. So it really felt like a good sequel to this sketch we got in season 46. So, Rebecca, what do you think of the Hot Ones sketch?
So I just didn't like it.
Really?
Honestly, like, could be my least favorite of the night, and I think I wouldn't say that if we didn't have the anticipation and the sketching in season 46. I love that, and I watched that one, and that's one that I definitely rewatch, but sometimes if something's gold, just let it be that way and just, like, not touch it, and I feel like Maya has so many awesome, like, impressions and repeat characters that it was like, of all of them to repeat, I don't think this one I think it started at a place where it didn't have as much potential because you're kind of not reinventing the wheels. The jokes kind of hit the same. And there weren't even that many topical, like, Cowboy Carter jokes I found in that, like, besides the outfits and much about it. I mean, there were some really funny parts. It was like Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to like that you have me here, and just the Beyonce isms of it all. I kind of wish maybe they brought her in a different talk show, or even like chicken wing, like chicken shop talk with it's a different kind of like you're eating food and with someone from pop culture. I don't know. I wish they didn't just redo it the same way because it was hard to top that one, and they didn't, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like Maya's era had a lot more talk shows than this one does. So I actually felt like it was a little refreshing. Like just this, the set design, the darkness of it. It's a little like La Revista de la Televisión with Bill Hader. Like, like that type of style, type of thing. It's a different sketch, but here, I don't know. I just felt like like Maya was like Maya again was really driving it. Thomas, do you feel differently than Rebecca?
Yeah, I feel a little differently than Rebecca. I was coming off of like, the show started off well. I was on a high, but then I was skeptical. I saw the first, saw that it was a Hot One sketch, and I'm like, oh, really? Like, do they have any ideas this week? They're starting off with something that she did last episode, and I didn't totally love the first Hot Ones that she did. I thought it was just sort of it's kind of flatline for me a little bit, but I think this one was better. I think I agree with you, John. I think there was a little bit of escalation from there. I like from the first one. I like how they set up the premise for this about how it was like retribution for Beyonce because she slays at everything and she wanted to slay at this and she didn't do so well last time. So they gave us a reason as to why there was a sequel to the last one. And I thought it was just more heightened. There was more escalation in this one than the first one. I especially liked the running joke of like her trying to figure out, like she's just said like her bones were hot. So she was trying to figure out if she could like replace her bones with other bones that weren't hot. So I think that was a funny escalation right there. I actually enjoyed this one more than the last one. Maya totally made it work for me. And I wasn't always the biggest fan of her Beyonce when she was a cast member on the show, but it seems like she got to do more with this Beyonce than she even did when she was on the cast. So I found myself skeptical, but it kind of did win me over.
Yeah, when she was doing Beyonce in the Prince show, it was really like understated. So,
Right.
we've definitely seen it more since then. I love the like Keenan spraying the lotion in her mouth. And I kept thinking, like, as they just kept, she was like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And like, I was like, they don't do those like physical gags on SNL as much as they used to. Like, I really felt like that was something that was fun there. So,
It was early for a debatably sexual innuendo. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I
I
was
mean,
like,
it's SNL.
it's
Yeah.
not even 12 right now.
It's
So
SNL in 2024, man. Times are changing.
Yeah. And
I
also,
don't know. I mean, it's fine.
yeah, with Conan's Hot Ones like blowing up recently, also it kind of felt like like I wonder if this sketch even gets written if it wasn't for Conan's Hot Ones just like taking over, and then it's like, okay, well, Hot Ones is on everybody's mind, so let's do this now again. That may be why we saw it tonight. Okay, so we get our first PDD pre-tape in a while. It felt like all through the first half of the season, PDD was just in every single episode. But it's been a while since I felt like they've been consistently getting on the show. But we get PDD explore page where we get a dinner where Ego, Chloe, and Sarah, who's playing Chelsea. That's some continuity from the Steve and Marty episode, that PDD short where Sarah as Chelsea existed prior to this. So Sarah, Ego, Chloe are with PDD. They're all out for dinner and they're showing each other the Instagram explore pages. Chloe has cookie recipes. Ego is puppies. PDD's like, nah, not showing you this. It's going to ruin the night. We get, I think, Martin putting his phone in the soup. And it all turns out because they're all, it's all videos of Maya as Unisa _ confidence, an online girlfriend for young men with self-esteem issues. And lots of really funny bits at the restaurant about how they just are embarrassed about their experience. And it's sort of Maya gets crazy over the phone. Ben ends up swallowing the phone. Marcella calls 911. Thomas, what do you think of PDD tonight?
Yeah, so here's the age-old debate. So PDD out of the office for this one. We always talk about where, are they better in the office or at the office? I vote in the office. I thought this worked out of the office. I really did enjoy this. And the thing about PDD that I love, and then they showed in this sketch, was it keeps me guessing. Like when they say, "Oh, you can't see what's on our Instagrams," like as a viewer, like I know as a PDD fan, like it's not just going to be like, oh, they have scantily clad women and that's why they don't want to see. So I know it's going to be a little weirder than that. So I'm excited sitting there going like, okay, where are they going to take this? It's going to get really weird. And I think it was they took it to a solid place, and there was a lot of funny sight gags with I think it was it Ben who swallowed his phone. That was really funny. The name of the person I thought was like a dumb little funny pun. My favorite part was Martin saying, "Is there a bird in here?" to try to like distract them, but then the other two just sort of went along with it, like they just knew just to kind of fall into place, and they just kind of went along with it. And they started swatting at the bird and stuff. So I thought there was like really fun escalation. I thought the premise was really solid, and they really PDD doesn't disappoint me in anything that I can remember. So I thought this was a thumbs up.
So, Thomas, what's on your explore page? Is it?
It's stuff that I sit there and I look at it and I'm like, why is this? This doesn't make any sense. And I almost would feel ashamed. I probably wouldn't show my wife what's on it, but I'm like, there's no reason why this is on.
Oh,
Like,
I'm not afraid. I got sports. I got SNL stuff. I got Friends content here. Survivor, some of my favorite shows. So I got nothing to hide. I was nervous too. But
my
Rebecca,
phone's
what'd
not
you?
near me. I would
No worries,
show
no
you,
worries.
but it's
Okay.
yeah.
But Rebecca,
Yo,
what'd you think?
I'm looking at mine. Mine's pretty random actually. I've got some Survivor, some Bravo, some
It's a lot of
RuPaul's
TV show
Drag
stuff.
Race stuff on here. A lot of TV show stuff. But that's what I do is watch TV. And no, I loved it. This was like, if not my favorite sketch of the night, like in my top two. I thought it was really funny. I mean, so this is where Maya really shined because Unita was not necessarily the biggest part of it. I think on paper, what you probably would think would be the funniest part would be like the sight bags and the phone in the throat and just dumping the thing in soup. And I thought that was all really funny and something that only Please Don't Destroy could have done and could have conveyed. But I don't think the sketch would have been as good if Maya was not in it. And I feel like that's where it really got in. It was obviously giving very hormone monster to me from the voiceover. And I don't know, it was really funny. It reminded me of like Glozell, like types of like physical gags, which like I grew up on. Thing. I don't know. I thought it was really just dumb and good and just like really great. Please Don't Destroy work that no one else could have been in their spot, and also no one could have been in Maya's spot. And I thought all around it kind of knocked it out of the park for me.
Yeah, so you walk a tightrope with this sketch when you're just evaluated on its structure, right? Because you have an A plot, which is the tension between the women at the dinner table and the PDD guys, where it's like, why don't you want to show your phones? What's going on? And then the B plot is what actually exists on their explore page, which is Maya Rudolph's character and what she's doing in the videos. And like both things have to work for the sketch to work. And for me, it did because I felt like the cutaways to Maya with her like swinging her boobs and stuff like that like was so
I forgot
funny.
about that part.
Yeah, and it was like there was like crazy visual gags going on both in the world of the phone and in the world of the restaurant. And like if you don't hit like that's why it's like in my opinion this is writing the sketch on hard mode a little bit because they could have just taken it one angle. It could have been completely in the restaurant and it could have been the debate about what is on your explore page, why do you want to not show it to me, but they also went to the other level of like closing the deal and putting the point on it, what actually exists on there. And it was funny too. So for me, this was a huge win tonight. And I really love this pre-tape. I think it was a great PDD, one of my favorites of the year.
I also thought it was funny. I don't know, maybe this just stuck out to me. When the phone was dropped in the soup and Ego picks it up and dusts it up, and there's not a single drop of
Yeah.
anything on it. And she's just like, oh, let me brush this off. And there's absolutely nothing on it. Like, I don't know. I was just laughing a lot at this.
It shows
It
like
was
there's
good humor.
yeah, there's like magic in the PDD world. Like
Yes.
the magic extends, like it's not just in the office, but it's like the office is a portal to things. Like I guess that their magic extends to things like that. It's a very surrealistic kind of thing that PDD has. They have the freedom to do things like that. That was a really good catch, Rebecca. Yeah.
So we head over to a school year sketch or sort of like a, commercial-ish thing where Andrew, Maya, and Heidi are all talking from the perspective of teachers who have special messages for their students. Turns out, we went through the whole year and y'all won. You're nasty. And they start talking about all of the different things that the kids have done to them to sort of beat down the teachers over the year. We get Keenan with a neck brace. who got beaten by two non-binary asexual students, Sarah, about her GoFundMe, Ego, who I thought was amazing in this sketch with her sit down, Bowen, the kids who make the usernames about him, Longfellow, his kids call him Coraline because of the coat he was wearing, and JJ and Punky as well, talking about confiscating items, all wrapped up in a bow, being brought to you by OnlyFans because y'all won, which I thought was an interesting beat on the end. And I don't usually like these beats, and right away I was like, but then I sort of, through talking through with some of the team here, I was pointed out to me that it's like, okay, well, teachers quit their job and probably went on OnlyFans. So I was like, okay, kind of get that ending a little bit more. But I'm curious, Rebecca, how do you feel about the school year sketch we got?
See, this is where it kind of lost me. My
Really?
sister's a teacher, so I'm very curious at her opinion on this when I talk to her tomorrow. Um, but I just didn't love it. Ego was by far the standout. I thought she did an awesome job and was very, very funny in this. Was kind of big the question for me, like, why didn't Maya get that beat as just the host? Which I think also kind of confirmed like her comfort, and they didn't need to have her do that part because she's always funny. But I don't know. I don't know. I thought Maya also could have done well there, but yeah, I actually didn't. I don't usually mind the end of a commercial sketch, and maybe it's because I've done sketch before, and they're really easy, and a good way to like get a good joke in. But I was like, the OnlyFans jokes are just so old, and like this, I don't know. I didn't think this was that great. And I guess if you're really gonna talk about kids and students, I mean, like I don't know that much, but like the "What's up, brother?" and like "It's Tuesday," like things that kids are doing now that like maybe parents would be like, oh wait, why? I've seen my kids do this, and maybe it would have been funnier on the show, or someone like the words that they're saying. I don't know. I didn't think it was topical enough to make it funny. I think if it was more relevant to like what kids are actually doing, the parents could be like, wait, I think I've heard of this, or people scrolling online seeing like YouTubers or kids with the references, unless like completely went over my head. But I feel like I'm in tune enough with just like being on my phone a lot that like I would have gotten some of the jokes, but I didn't see anything as a topical. So I didn't love it. And I didn't think that the OnlyFans made it any funnier to me. But
Yeah, I think you absolutely can cut that button on the sketch. You
yeah.
didn't need that at the end for sure. For me, Thomas, I did feel like some of this, like I'm not a teacher, but I do have friends who work in school. My sister works at a school. I have like friends who work at schools. Like I do feel like some of this is relevant. Like sometimes they'll just like I'll be hanging out with them and they'll tell me about like the words, like this makes me sound super old, but the words that the kids are saying, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, yeah, I've seen that. And like I think that if you work in a school, or somebody who works in a school, there were things here to grasp onto. So how did you feel about it?
Yeah, for sure. No, my wife is a teacher. She's a high school
Right.
teacher, and she was watching it with me. So right away, I asked her, like, as a teacher, "What'd you think?" And she's like, "I really like that." She found it relatable as a teacher, and they could have used any slang, and I would have just surrendered myself to believing that that's what kids nowadays were saying, because I'm like kind of an old guy. So I have no idea if any of that was topical or if that's what kids are saying. Like when they said "you speak in riddles," that's what I feel when I hear my nieces and nephew talk, or if I'm at the gym and these high school kids are around me and they talk to each other. I'm like, you guys are speaking in riddles right now. Like, I have no idea what you're saying. But my wife liked the sketch. She said it was relatable. She said her catchphrase is "it's above my pay grade." That's what my wife says. Like when things happen, she'll
That's
just
funnier
give
than anything they said in the sketch, honestly.
yeah, my wife she should write for SNL. No, like she tells the students like, that's above my pay grade. I'm not dealing with that right now. So she found it relatable. I did, just because like anytime I have even the slightest of interactions where I observe high school kids, I'm just like confused. I'm like frightened and confused. So I thought it was
These kids,
cute and
they
relatable.
frighten and confuse
They
me.
frighten and confuse me. Yeah. I definitely didn't need the OnlyFans. Like, why? I want to ask a writer on the show, like, why do you guys put tags on some of these sketches that don't need them? Like, it's so frustrating to me.
It is a lack of confidence in the sketch, in my opinion.
And the
Okay.
OnlyFans itself is like such an easy
Yeah, you're
like
right.
it's just as funny as being like sponsored by Ozempic. Like, okay,
Mhm.
at least sometimes I like a lot of these commercials because you really don't see it coming, and you're like, oh, wait, how is this for a bounty or like something? And then you go back and it makes you rethink about the sketch from a different light. but this didn't do anything that way, and, like, OnlyFans is such a crutch. Like, the same way that any Ozempic joke is such a crutch, where, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it just, like, gave me the ick.
But like this is again, this is a really simple sketch, right? It's just basically like beat by beat of like
Mhm.
what is happening in a school and pointing out that teachers, like after a whole year of working with students, are just exhausted. And I think that, this, it's funny because it happens. This sketch exists in silos, right? Like you could just take each part with like an ego with a Longfellow and separate them into their own moments and talk about which was the best. And I do think that like the more like the more exasperated that what the performer is, I think the more the sketch works. And I think that's where Ego's performance probably crushes in this, because she's just like, I've had enough, and this is what I say when I need to tell the kids that enough is enough. And I think that's what really works here. Um, so overall, I think this was good for me. Now we get to a sketch that exists 40,000 years ago in Britain. It's a National Geographic series on the early man. JJ is our announcer. We get Boa and Bowen and Maya as our first, I guess, predecessors. They discover the bones of a beast. We also see Marcello, Molly, Trost, and Chloe playing different versions of people. Heidi, we see early forms of gossip. Ego interrupts Mikey, who's doing some form of Mick Jaggerous. Keenan is the first person to discover that fire is hot. Speaking of Phil Hartman, fire bad. Bloody hot in it. And Sarah as a French caveman. So Thomas, your thoughts on our National Geographic sketch going all the way back 40,000 years ago?
I thought this sketch could have gone all the way back to like 1976. Like this seriously felt like a sketch from like the early SNL days, like a super simple premise. It was a dumb sketch, but I'll give it a pass because it's a dumb sketch that knew that it was dumb. So it wasn't like trying to achieve these great heights of like writing or wit or anything like that. I didn't particularly enjoy it, to be honest with you, but I'm inclined to give it a pass because I don't think it was striving to be dumb. And it wasn't dumb in the way of like chicken fongers. Like that was just irritating. This was dumb to where it was like, okay, like I can kind of see what they're doing. It's not irritating to me. I didn't love it. The only thing that I really did like was the Cockney accent that Maya was going for. So I could tell like the different dialect that she was going for. That was good. Mikey had a decent Mick Jagger, so that was pretty cool too. But it was just very dumb, and it didn't do much for me. And I really could imagine Gilda Radner, Jane
Oh,
Curtin,
sure.
John Belushi doing this. Like this felt straight out of early SNL, but it was just like for me.
I had a note. This really felt like a Franken and Davis sketch.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely, with the
Mhm.
whole like crawl at the beginning and going back to like old times. Like was their staple and what they would do for many years. And yeah, this felt like you could definitely see like a Gilda or Belushi doing something. This sketch could exist in any era. So for me, I feel like there's a really interesting premise here. Did they go further enough, like far enough with it? Is my question, because that's where I feel like I have to do a rewatch on this one, because I really like the concept, Rebecca, but I don't know that the execution fully hit for me. So, what did you think of it?
I was obsessed. I couldn't
Oh,
stop
good.
laughing, but I love a dumb sketch. That is my humor. Like I don't know, like I couldn't stop laughing. I was sitting there with both my parents with straight faces. They didn't even smile. And I'm like, I can't stop laughing at this. I thought it was so funny. And I knew exactly what they were going to do. Anytime J led up what the accent was gonna be, I heard it in my head and it was exactly what I thought. And there was no room for surprise. Like I already knew the second they said, and like coming from another place, we look at Sarah, I'm like, oh, she's gonna go, oh, like it was so dumb.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, I don't know, I thought it was really funny. I also think like, I don't know, Bowen and Maya's chemistry together is great. And also am like a Bowen apologist, but he in real life, I think, is friends with so many of these people, and you could tell how close. And I'm imagining them in the ABBA sketch that we saw, and like just the two of them next to each other, you could tell they were having fun together. And I don't know, I thought it was really good and just dumb. And this was definitely my favorite sketch of the night. So, um,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I like this one more than I initially let on. There was definitely something here. JJ was really, really good anchoring this sketch as well. And it almost felt like this sketch belonged on a night of the season, where we talked about maybe like even like the Josh Brolin episode going back a little bit, where everything felt really silly. This was a really silly sketch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did think this was like a win overall. Let's head into our last sketch before we talk about our musical guest. And that was a pre tape called Thanks for Picking Us Up, where a daughter is at a sleepover, calls her mom, Maya, and says, Mom, can you pick me up? Okay, well, what do you want me to say? Come up with something. So Maya rings the doorbell. Mikey Day standing there and says, Grandma's having a funeral at 2 a.m. What? Likes nighttime funerals, takes the daughter. And then we just get the repetition of this continuing to happen. It's her father. He's become gay. We have a memorial for JFK Rowling. Like all this stuff keeps going. Sings a little MIA. Eventually, Keenan comes in as the dad. We get to meet Heidi as the mom of the other girl. And it gets ridiculous as we keep going, including some cicadas being thrown in. And at the end, it said, because I'm your mother and I'm a bitch. And that's what Maya says. And we get the nice walk away of a daughter thanking her mom for all the excuses that she made for her. So, Rebecca, your thoughts on this pre-tape?
I mean, it was relatable in the way that I could remember, like, looking at my mom and someone being like, "Oh, let's have a sleepover, let's have a play date." I'm looking at my mom being like, let's say no, let's do something. I do not want to be doing this right now. Um, I think it could have been funnier because the premise is like relatable from like a point of view that like I definitely dealt with this growing up, and like my mom definitely dealt with this with me and my sister, and I don't know. I thought it could have been really funny, and I don't necessarily know if it was actually at all. Like, I think really the only time I really laughed is when they came up as cops, being like, "We have to take this girl away." But besides that, I don't know. It started really ridiculous, so it couldn't continue to build from there, is what I found. And then Keenan kind of comes in and levels it, just like she doesn't want to be here. Maybe that would have been a better like button at the end where it's like the mom coming out with really, I guess like that wouldn't probably be like the Mother's Day of it all, but like it maybe would have been funnier if like the mom's going to great lengths to make this ridiculous like excuses, and then Keenan came in the end being like she doesn't want to be here and then takes her home. I think that could have been funnier if it just like the things built and built and built, and then like Keenan came in and just like brought it down to reality. But yeah, I was looking for the jokes and I didn't really see them, but I like the concept and it's pretty relatable. So it had potential, but didn't really reach that for me.
Thomas, your thoughts?
Yeah, well said. Like there was a premise there, but this was one of those sketches where the sketch came out of the oven, they put the knife in, and there was a ton of batter still on the knife, but they had no choice but to serve it. It should have gone back in the oven for another half hour, at least, while they could figure out better jokes or better escalation or something to do with the decent premise. But it just felt like a sketch that wasn't ready to air. And I could just hear Lorne saying like it airs because it's 11:30 and not because it's ready. That was this sketch. It just fell really flat to me. Maybe the only funny part was Keenan showing up and just being honest. Like Maya was trying to think of excuses, but Keenan was just saying she just doesn't want to be here. But I think I would agree with Rebecca though. Like that could have been placed at the end of the sketch as like the punchline at the end of the sketch. But this was just a flat sketch for me, very little comedy. There might have been something there if they had more time and something to work on it. But yeah, it was kind of a nothing sketch as far as comedy.
I think about like that and I Got a Robe sketch from like a mom's point of view, and we had Kristen
Right.
Wiig doing that. Again, a really simple concept that's very relatable and really was funny. And like it really did that. I mean, a lot of the sketches tonight I felt, and maybe this is why I wasn't obsessed, a lot of them were very relevant to like what's happening right now. And I will definitely touch upon this in like the nurses sketch. But this, I was like, we already did something for Mother's Day, so it definitely could have been cut. It's not like they completely forgot Mother's Day. And yeah, I compare everything in my head and like a holiday-esque sketch to the Christmas morning and I Got a Robe with Kristen Wiig, and like simple concept, relatable, hit it. Didn't take that much effort. And this didn't hit that way.
And sometimes relatability is not enough. And I think maybe SNL, any sketch show really like sometimes leans on relatability a little too much, but that's only a quarter of the battle. Like, it still has to be funny.
I totally disagree with both of you, with respect, because I
Oh boy.
really felt like this was this like spoke to me. I don't know if it's just that I've become like a huge softie or that I got a lot of like sleepover anxiety. Like I always just like being in my own bed when people like when I was younger, like when I would be invited over for like friends' houses for sleepovers, I'm like, but like I, and then I'm always like thinking, okay, well, like how can I get out of this if I needed to? And like I felt like there was something there, and like it did remind me a lot of the sketches that they were doing like back a few years ago, where it would be like, a mother, maybe it was Amy Schumer, like a mother going to her daughter, said like, "I love you from the day you were born," and then it goes like flashback, and then you just see like all the moments where she's like screaming and yelling. It's like it's not exactly that way, but you love her anyways. And I felt like it was like there was like this sweet and tender moment between like the daughter who is like, I just need like my mom to like just take care of this for me so that I don't look bad. And I think that like, there's a place in SNL for like just pure tender emotion. Obviously you got to bring the funny, so I can buy that maybe like it wasn't a hilarious sketch, but I think that there were moments here. I love that it just got faster and faster as we got through it. I think this was actually one of my favorite pieces of the first half of the show, to be honest.
John, you should
Wow.
go to
Well,
the
I also
Hallmark
see,
store
yes.
if you want that.
Yeah,
Literally.
it
Not
wasn't
SNL, man.
if I open the Hallmark card and cicadas fly out, then yeah, maybe. But you're not gonna get that at the Hallmark store.
I don't know. Also, maybe it's because I'm such a Maya like fan that I'm seeing John in the chat saying here that maybe it should have been a live scene with one encounter where Maya's fumbling for an excuse. You
Yeah,
have Maya Rudolph here. Do something where Maya's being Maya. And like imagine Maya Rudolph is your mom. What would she be like getting you out of a sleepover? And this could have been any person. It could have been any cast member. It could have been any host like doing this sketch. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, you have Maya Rudolph there, and we want to see
yeah.
the Maya-isms,
Mhm.
and this didn't feel very Maya to me.
I will say that this is the sketch that I will be showing to my mom tomorrow, and I'm like actively excited to show it to her because I think she'll appreciate it. But yeah, I get your
It was
I get
really
your
sweet, John. It was a sweet sketch.
Yeah,
yeah, it was a
yeah,
nice moment.
respectfully.
Of course, of course. So hot takes. All right, Vampire Weekend comes in now. This is their third time performing on the show, I believe. We get them playing Gen X Cops and Capricorn. Thomas, any thoughts on Vampire Weekend's performances tonight?
I pretty much like Vampire Weekend. I saw them in concert 14 years ago at a music festival. I happened to, I wanted to see the headliner, and so I wanted to get a spot. So I saw Vampire Weekend, even though I didn't really dig them on record. Surprisingly good live act. I had like a lot of fun seeing them. A little boring, I think, tonight. Not a ton of energy. I guess that's what you get sometimes with Vampire Weekend, but inoffensive. I thought it was fine. My wife liked it, so that's, we were 1 for 2, I guess. Like she might have liked it a little more than I did, but yeah, inoffensive, just not terrible, but a tad boring for me.
I actually made a mistake. So their fourth time performing the show. So Amy Adams, Zach Galifianakis, Kristen Wiig, and now Maya Rudolph. I was very surprised that Maya didn't perform with them. I know that she's hosting, but I thought that there was a moment they're going on tour together and they performed together before. So I think that would have been a really cool element here. Rebecca, your thoughts on Vampire Weekend?
Yeah, so when I saw the name and that they were going together, I thought it was just like a given that they'd be performing together, and they didn't. I mean, we've seen this whole season, and I did say this at the beginning of the season, like this is the year of pop girlies and pop divas and every single like person. So we have Dua Lipa, we have Ariana Grande, we have Renee Rapp, next week Sabrina Carpenter, and it's been such high energy, just like pop performances each week as the musical guest. And I did think it was a little boring as well in that aspect. Maybe it's because my bar for either music these days or even SNL musical performances is that high. And I was kind of waiting, I don't know, for the catch. There was no surprise guests, there was no appearances. I was waiting for Maya to go and perform with them and didn't get much of that. So, I mean, again, I'm not the biggest fan. I've listened to their new songs, but I don't know, maybe just like the pop girls have like had such a high bar for performances this season that like I think that's it. Like this season really, I don't know, rebounded a lot of like the musical performances are kind of just as important as the guests. And today I was just like, all right, like I'll go fill up my water bottle during this. So
All right, fair enough. Well, let's head over to Weekend Update where we get two different correspondents come on here. So Sarah teased us during the cold open. I love that this came back because she mentioned that this was going to be coming on later on. We get her playing RFK Jr.'s brain worm. Lots of back and forth between Sarah and Colin Jost here. So Thomas, I'll go to you first on this one. Sarah on Weekend Update tonight.
Yeah, this might be one where I really have to watch again because it was because she's had her energy was a little. I mean, I know it's Sarah, so that makes sense. But it was like I was almost having trouble following her energy and what I did think was fun when she was taking sips like Rebecca's doing right now, and with the sound effects and stuff, and like that was really fun. I thought this was just okay though. It might be better for me, like I said again on a rewatch, but it didn't really hit me all that well when I saw it live. The Jost roast stuff is getting a little stale for me, I think. So I could maybe do without that. But I thought this was just average to me. It was just fine.
I thought that this was a good concept, Rebecca, but it was way too long. Like it needed to be cut down by
Mhm.
about a minute. I think that like once she started getting into the whole Marilyn Monroe thing and singing, I was like, I was surprised that there was a whole other beat to this because I think what they had in small doses really worked here. What did you think?
I don't think I've ever said anything bad about Sarah Sherman on this podcast. And unfortunately, this is going to be the first time I'm doing that. It was so long. I thought it was just me. I'm glad you said that because I was like, well, honestly, the Marilyn Monroe part was the best part I found. And I don't know, if you're either going to roast Jost and really go in on it, as we know she does. I didn't love it. I also thought it was funny when she was sipping from the brain, but I don't really know what the cup was doing there. And it was kind of distracting. And I don't know. I didn't think this was that great. And I guess it's pretty relevant to what's going on now, but I don't know. Like RFK's also said some like funny things about like the worms and there have been jokes and I don't know. We were missing some of that. We didn't get political cold open. Weekend update also. I don't know. I didn't love it. So
Fair
there's
enough.
something to
Yeah, and I
say
mean
there.
we could have done the Marilyn Monroe part, and then cut some of the stuff at the beginning too. So overall,
For
like you
sure. I
said,
thought that was the best
yeah.
part of it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, again, a good example of something we've seen many times this season, which is like an interesting concept, but an execution doesn't fully hit. So, but I am really excited to talk about Heidi here, who plays sort of a new variation of something we haven't seen. We've seen other like she points out like a type of woman and then
Mhm.
she plays that person. So I'm trying to find the right way to word this, but I don't think we've seen this woman before, which is a woman who says she's not mad. And she comes out and she's like, she has back and forth with Colin. She's upset about Colin ruining her jokes and brunch reservations. And she ends up folding her laundry. And it's very like a passive aggressive take on this woman who says she's not mad, but clearly she's mad. Thomas, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I like this. I like when Heidi plays these archetypes, John. Like, so I went back to she did the woman who's busy at work, which I thought was great. Like, the Every Boxer's Girlfriend in a Boxing movie was kind of similar. It was like a movie archetype, but it's a kind of a similar Heidi thing. I love when she does these. I thought she was great. I thought I think she captures the nuances, the little idiosyncratic things of these different archetypes so well, and I think it was the same here. I think Heidi's seems like she hasn't done as much on Update this season as I would have liked, but I think with this one she made up for it. She's just so fun to watch on screen. She's fun to watch on Update. So this was a good second update piece after kind of the dud that Sarah turned in. I really liked this from Heidi.
Yeah, I thought she's done a couple of really good things on Update this year, including the tarot card reader that she did
Oh
earlier in the
yes.
season.
Yeah,
So
that was
that
good.
was a really strong one as well. And then I think it was in the Anna de Armas episode that she launched that other previous character you talked about. For me, I really genuinely love in comedy when people point out like a type of person, and I like the way you describe that, like an archetype of a person, and then they play it out. And yes, like everybody knows a passive aggressive person, but I just think the beats were really well done here. I felt like this was the much stronger Update correspondent piece tonight. Rebecca, your thoughts?
yeah, I thought it was funny. I mean, we can all think about someone that is like this. I thought when she yelled at Che, being like, I've been sitting here for 5 minutes and you didn't even acknowledge me or say anything. And the folding the clothing was really funny as well, because I feel like that's also just like a stereotype in media where it's like someone just like angrily doing like a mundane task to be like, I'm not mad. What do you mean? I'm not mad. Why are you saying that I'm mad? Like, I don't know. I thought it was really funny. It was good. I think she knocked it out. She does that though. Like, she's really good at just being someone who blank. And I thought this was good.
I also like that her whole thing was that she was told she was going to host SNL, but then she only got onto Update, and that's really the reason why she's mad. Like, that was a good, button to put on that little piece. So who was cut from Weekend Update tonight? We had a third correspondent we didn't get to see on the live show, and that was James Austin Johnson, who was playing Brian Cox, talking about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef and other things. So that was the cut Weekend Update correspondent.
Oh, I'm so glad they cut that.
Why?
Well, I feel like if they didn't do the whole Drake and Kendrick thing last week, that was just a flop. Then maybe it would have been funny, but it's also like it was a lot more relevant last week than anything. They made the one Drake joke, which was honestly really funny, an update. And yeah, I'm just really glad that they didn't do it, because it gets to the point where I get SNL's part of trying to be relevant and culture, and we saw that in the monologue, and we've seen that a lot through the past like 2 seasons or so, is relating to internet culture and this, but this would have been like really fishing to like get that clip and to go viral and like such a cringy way. So I'm glad that was cut for sure. And I take this worm over seeing more of the Drake Kendrick like trying to be relevant type of part.
Yeah, and in this piece, Colin Jost was playing was a boar on the floor, so that's a Succession reference there. Okay, let's
John.
go ahead.
John, can I say something about Update real quick? I heard you and Bill, I'm glad Bill's here in the chat, talk about Michael Che's tendency to engage the crowd so much.
Yes, we talked about this in the Patreon show last week.
Yeah, on the Patreon. Oh God, that frustrated me so much tonight, and I'm glad somebody called it. I'm glad you guys called it out recently, because all season that's been really bothering me, and it just seems like a weird crutch. Like, it's even when jokes land, even when they're good jokes, he has to look at the crowd and be like, "Oh, that one, I thought that would work." I'm like, man, like, stop playing to the audience in the studio so much. Like, it totally extinguishes anything that you're trying to do. And I was watching for it. I'm like, maybe he won't do it tonight. But almost every joke that he did tonight, he played to the crowd and did that, and it just totally extinguishes it. So it really frustrated me, and I was watching for it tonight after your conversation this week.
And it really showed tonight.
Yeah, that was on the patron exclusive sketch breakdown that we did last week. And Bill and I were just talking about it just to fill in the general audience, just that we like, I'm very frustrated that he continues to tell a joke and then like cross off the joke or say like that didn't work. And I think at one point he said like, this is a bad episode for me last week. And I was like, why are you just telling us how to feel about your material? Like it is, I don't know. It's not my favorite thing.
Seems like he's given up a bit. And like, I get if people don't laugh at a joke. And I mean, the Kim Kardashian one was funny. But like it kind of got groans. And then also the Brittany Griner one got groans too. So I kind of though sympathize with him, because like
revel in it. That's like your job is like
I thought those were funny.
Yeah, but that and Che is really good at that. Like that's why we fell in love with Che. As like, let's be real. Like Che has been one of the greatest Weekend Update anchors ever. Like this is why we love you on the show, is because you're gonna say things that nobody else is willing to say. But then like live in the silence. Like if the audience is not giving you what you want, like know that there's millions of people at home who are just like excited to hear you say something. And then like here, this is what he said last week.
This is a really rough episode for me, Kyle.
And I was like, what? Stop it. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Jost was good tonight, though. I think Jost was really good tonight.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this one. Let's talk about the coffee commercial that we got after Weekend Updates, where Bowen is the director, Heidi's the client, Maya's playing Dawn Faraway, who's this I guess famous actress. Mikey's pouring her coffee, Andrew's the cameraman, Trost is with the clapper. Chloe and Punky are powdering her face at different times, and she keeps having coffee, but she never really has coffee. Go through the commercial, lots and lots of fart jokes. Rebecca, anything here you want to talk about within the coffee commercial?
Well, I'm curious if the name was like a pun on Faye Dunaway.
Maybe.
I don't know. It seemed similar.
Farrah Fawcett too, I thought.
Well, we also and like Bowen's Instagram name is like Faye Dunaway, so I don't know. Maybe it was like niche. Yeah, this wasn't funny at all. Like I don't know. And it was long too. This one felt so long. Like maybe that was just because I wasn't enjoying it, and we were coming off of like Weekend Update, which I don't think was the strongest Weekend Update we've had this season. So I was just like tough and like fart jokes. I think joke is the stretch there. I think they were fart commentary, and that was about it. Like I don't know. This one definitely could have been cut, and I would have been perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, when I was watching this, I was kept thinking of Kristen Wiig with playing Jamie Lee Curtis with those Activia commercials, and I was like, and those like back in the day, like I thought those were really funny, but it sort of just got into the thing where like if the whole thing was like, oh, she never had coffee before and now she's having it for the first time, and that's what's causing like all of the stuff, like I can get into that. Like I'm not above like a good fart joke, but it wasn't even like it was like fart jokes mixed with other stuff going on, and it was like really jumbled for me, Thomas.
Yeah, no, I don't love fart jokes and stuff like that in general, but there is a way that could be done well, and it has mostly to do with timing and things like that. And this didn't have timing. It didn't really have anything. Maya is fun to watch on screen, so that's like the only redeeming thing. But this sketch was not good. I guess Steve Higgins got a lot to do in this sketch. He's usually the one that's back there doing the fart sound effects when called upon, but this was bad. I'll say it. This was like a really bad sketch, and there was nothing. It
Yeah.
just yeah. I'm
This
very
is my take on this
disappointed.
because we've had this discussion many times over the last few years over here with the chat. Like, look, your mileage may vary on like how you feel about fart jokes and poop stuff, like on SNL. That's totally fine. Like, if this is your thing, like I actually really have no problem with it. But it just like really has to work within the context of the sketch. Like, there has to be a through line. There has to be like logic, and then there has to be something that puts like the cherry on top for it. And I just like I felt like I didn't fully understand Maya's character here. There was no like I don't know what her motivation was. The mixed messages with like wanting to get people to leave the room. Like at least if it was explained that she's embarrassed about having to fart and that's why she's getting people to leave the room, I could maybe buy into that a little bit more. But it wasn't done. So I did not. This did not work for me. And
Yeah.
this was a far drop from what we saw in the first half.
Well, we also have Maya Rudolph, who, even it was mentioned in the monologue, has one of the most funny and notorious like poop scenes in culture of all times in Bridesmaids.
Right.
And like, and they even talked about it. So your mind is thinking about it. It was like one of the most slow down parts of the monologue where you really took it in, being like, we have this whole thing. So then you come and you're like, okay, this is going to be like in that realm. And it was like tough. Just not great for me.
All right. Let's keep going with the Nurse Appreciation Week sketch. So another sort of PSA that we get where we have JJ, Molly, and Chloe as nurses, Maya and Ego, who are taking care of Mikey, who's playing like an older man character, talking about nurses, the nursing situations, and a lot of like it was a really weird through line this episode with like all these PSAs and direct to camera stuff going on here. Thomas, your thoughts on the Nurse Appreciation Week sketch?
Kind of flat for me. It did seem like it didn't quite get out of first gear or whatever. There was a couple of funny things like Mikey's like he keeps calling them Venus and Serena. That kind of got a little chuckle out of me. Mikey, he brought back his squeaky old man voice, which he's done in the past, which I found kind of humorous, but overall, like I guess there was a decent premise, but even then I'm kind of like on the fence about, but it was just really flat to me, and it continued the trend in this episode of like started off promising, but then we're getting to the end here where it's just like we're petering out, and I just sat there staring at the screen like I'm not enjoying this. This is just not funny. There's maybe something there, but I didn't like it.
I really do try and evaluate every sketch like on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But when you had the teacher thing earlier in the episode, and it really to me was like much, much stronger, I sort of think you have to cut one. Because I like look, not there's this was for nurses, that was for teachers. I understand that they're different, but like it was very like of the same vibe, and one was to me clearly superior. Rebecca, your thoughts?
I mean, if we wanted to show appreciation to our nurses, which we do, this sketch was not that. If anything, I'd be like, oh, really? This is what we get as a thank you. It was tough. I think they were trying to go for that type of like close encounter sketch where it's just like la di da, I love my job. Wow, yeah, the best thing ever. And then the downfall and the constant negativity with one patient. I think there was one like funny thing that stood out, and it was Molly's line about the banging the pots and pans, and like that was annoying. But then we were also annoyed that you stopped doing that really quickly. I thought that was the funniest part of this. I was like, this is tough. And we're also coming from an episode where we had the teachers, we had Mother's Day, we had a cold open with mothers, and it was a lot of appreciation and joy. And I get the sentiment of it all. And I feel like there's a lot of funny things you could do in a medical sense that we actually don't always see. I know last week we had the barbecue one, and yeah, it was a rough ending to the whole episode.
Yeah, I will say though that I think the final ad that we are about to talk about, the garden ad, was my high point of the second half of the show. I think that there was something more here. This to me felt like a better written sketch where you have Mikey and Maya, the Lanzettis, who are advertising their landscaping company, and their thing is like, we're not going to hire like hot landscapers that are going to try and get with your wife. We're going to only hire hopeless, sexless weirdos. And like, I thought this is a great sketch concept where you have Keenan and Devin and JJ and Andrew as your four hopeless, sexless weirdos. And they all have their own shtick where like Keenan speaks in every voice except his own. Devin panics and comes off real rude. JJ does weird what ifs, and Andrew hugs a lot. And you have different examples with Chloe, Sarah, and Michael Longfellow. And I definitely think like there was stronger stuff in the first half of the show, but like this is a very solid like back half ad, like good 10-1 sketch for me. So good junk food here that I enjoyed from the garden ad. Thomas, your thoughts on it?
No, I actually agree with you, John. I think I was on board with the premise right away. I think it was a really solid idea. I think the guys' performances were fun, like Keenan and Andrew, and then played like weirdos really well. I think what I liked most about this, what I appreciate, and I'll give them credit for sure, was that there was actually a twist and actually went somewhere. So like Mikey and Maya, who owned the business, we find out that they're actually a married couple, and this happened to them. So they gave us a reason why for the premise. They built up to the reason why they're offering this service that they're not going to sleep with your wife. So I thought that the sketch actually went somewhere, as opposed to like some of the stuff that we saw, especially in the back half. So I'll give it credit for that. But I thought this was really good. Maybe slightly underbaked, but that's like kind of a nitpick. I think it was actually, for what we've been saying about the episode kind of petering out, I thought this was actually a pretty solid ending to the episode.
Rebecca, your thoughts on it?
I think it was the best of the second half, but I yes, I agree with you saying that it wasn't fully baked, but I actually think it was like half baked. I thought the obvious standout were all the guys doing the funny characteristics of people, and honestly, they were all pretty funny in themselves. I think this was a strong Devin episode, and JJ was just really funny here. Also, I kind of wish the twist, because I think the twist was kind of implied. Like I went in being like, oh, this has happened to you. Like I didn't actually think that was a twist. Maybe it would have been funnier if like Maya was like, I don't know, talking about these guys, been starting to get like a little heated up and being like, oh, it's actually like kind of hot. And like maybe that way, like just talking about how like, I don't know, there's kind of like a sexiness in like the unknown and the unattainable in a way here. And it wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, I went into it with the idea that they were a married couple and it happened to them. And I also didn't think this was a great use of Maya. And I think that's the constant like takeaway that I have from the whole episode. It's like, you have Maya Rudolph here. And we see her in all these things. And I mean, one of my favorites that we kind of got to touch on is like the hormone monster and like the kind of sexual, like funny sexual like nature that she does have. And this was super underutilized in a sketch that did have some sort of jokes, and we could have done some hedges jokes and trimming the bush and like I don't know, like the stuff was there. It was landscaping. That's what I expected. And yeah, I wish that they took this concept that I liked and I thought everyone did a good job in it, but like made it even better and amped it up that much more, especially as the last sketch of the night. I thought it would have really ended a little bit better.
My one pivot on this sketch is that I wish the hopeless, sexless weirdos were still trying to get with the women in the like in those like little segments. Like I think that maybe they couldn't get them because the way that they are, but I wish that they were still trying as opposed to just showing what their quirks were. I think that would like I think that interaction may have been that like what I was looking for here. But yeah, this was good to me. All right. We're going to rate this episode out of 10, our second to last episode of the season. So, Chad, I want you to think about your ratings. Rebecca, Thomas, you do the same while I tell everybody what was cut from the night. So, I mentioned Brian Cox, played by JAJ on Weekend Update. We also had 3 other sketches from the night. So, first was a sketch which was called A Mom News. This was Maya and Sarah as anchors. We had all the women in the cast, plus Mikey and Keenan, and it was a news program with mom headlines. And then we had another sketch, a midwife sketch. This was a sequel to the Quinta Brunson sketch that we had last season, midwife, but this was higher stakes involving a hot tub in the next stage, constant references and flashbacks to 2000 when Richard Hatch won Survivor, and 2050 when we had Maya and Bowen's wedding in the sketch. The sketch featured Bowen, Maya, JJ, Chloe Fineman, Punky, Molly, Marcelo, Sarah, and Trost. And then we had a sketch that was cut that I'm really upset about. This was a sketch I'm very surprised that they brought back, but this was a sketch from 2005 with Keenan and Maya Rudolph playing TT and Mario. Do you remember this sketch?
Yep.
So TT and Mario were back. This is from the Jason Bateman episode in 2005, where we had Amy Poehler and Jason Bateman as a couple who listened to a CD to get down from the tunes of TT and Mario. A sketch from like 20 years ago being brought back that I am so upset did not find its way on the show. That to me is like one of my favorite sleeper hits from back then. And this is like, I was waiting for like the bumper with the TT and Mario part 2 is coming online, a la Papyrus. Like, so give me what I want, SNL. I'd love to see that on the show. All right, let's get the ratings out of 10. Rebecca, how are you feeling about the night?
Oh, don't do this to me. I was
Oh,
really
no.
wanting to come on here and just like really rave about the whole episode in Maya. I think all in all, definitely, I think I was being a little more negative coming into this when I initially kicked it off, and there were funny moments, but for me, you have a literal legend there, and I don't think she was utilized correctly. The musical performance didn't help amp me up, but I do think the monologue definitely made up for a lot of the episode. So I'm gonna go with a 6.5 out of 10, and that's a little biased just because I love Maya and I can't rate below 5.
All right, Thomas, out of 10, where are you gonna go?
Yeah, I think the monologue really bumps it up, and also a really good PDD. Maya definitely underutilized. I'm gonna go 6.1 out of 10.
Okay, why?
It's I think, like I said, the first half was really good. So if the first half was like the whole show, I would have put it in the 7.5 or above. Second half brought it down. Ended with a decent sketch. I couldn't go below even a 6 because it wasn't like a terrible episode. But yeah, I just 6.1 pretty much because of that monologue. And actually the cold open, it was really sweet and funny with the moms coming on. A nice reprieve from the usual political, topical kind of cold open. So I'll give them credit for that too.
I think I'm going to go with 7 out of 10 for this episode. Obviously room for, a rewatch and see how you feel, but I really did like the first half of this episode. I thought it was such a strong first half with the cold open. Monologue was great. I personally like Hot Ones. The PDD sketch was great. The school year sketch, give or take. I thought there was something really interesting they were going for with that National Geographic sketch. And I obviously, thanks for picking us up, really spoke to me. So for me, at least, my sensibility really loved the first half. Felt like it really fell off a cliff at a certain point. Heidi was good on Update, but besides that, Coffee commercial and Nurse Appreciation Week didn't click for me, but the Garden ad rebounded at the end. So that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like this is a 7 out of 10 night. This was a good episode. We've had some better ones over the last few weeks, but overall pretty good. And I'm so curious what they're going to do next week with host Jake Gyllenhaal and musical guest Sabrina Carpenter for our finale. So of course we'll be back to cover that. Before we do, we have more coverage of this episode all week long, starting with our Monday night roundtable, where I will be back with some guests to break down these sketches even further. Wednesday night, we'll have our By the Numbers show, where we will talk through the numbers of the week. We'll see if Mike Murray, who is now a father, so Father Mike, we'll see if he makes his way back to the show on Wednesday. If not, I will be there to go through the numbers of the week and all the statistics. We will also have our exclusive patron sketch breakdown, where you can vote for the sketch you want us to talk about even further. So some really fun conversation on those patron shows. You can find them at patreon.com/the SNL network. And of course, like I said, we're going to have finale coverage and then so much more next week. I'm very excited to tell you about what our plans are for the summer and some stuff we're working on to celebrate the 50th anniversary. So I guess, we can officially start to look towards 50 as of 1 week from now. So very excited about all of that. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Anything you would like to plug to the listeners?
No, just at Barbecue on all social media. This was very, very fun. And thank you for having me. And very much looking forward to the finale next week. And all I'm going to say is it's about 2:26 by me. And I'm working late because I'm a podcaster. So I'll leave that. I'm very excited. This is really fun, though. Thank you both.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. Thomas, you got to tell us everything you got going on. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, no, this was a pleasure. You, John, always fun to podcast with you. Rebecca, the same. So I have 2 podcasts, SNL Hall of Fame. So we are coming toward the end of season 5. So voting's actually open right now. It's open now until Friday, May 17th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So cast your votes. You can listen Monday. We're doing our annual roundtable. We're doing the season 5 roundtable. Me and Jeremy Dove and Ashley Bauer. We'll be going through our ballots, and then we'll reveal season 5, the class of season 5, the following week. Go back into the archives of season 5 and listen. John was on for Will Forte. That was a really, really fun episode. Rebecca North was on with me. We talked about Maya Rudolph's candidacy. Her last time on the ballot. So that's something to think about when you vote. So that's SNL Hall of Fame. Check us out. Also Pop Culture 5. Myself and Jeremy Dove, we take any given pop culture topic and talk about the 5 essentials of that topic. So John, our most recent episode, 5 essential Friends episodes. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I know you're a huge Friends guy. We had Luann and Llewellyn from the One with Friends podcast to talk about 5 essential Friends episodes. Next week, SNL related 5 essential Bill Murray movies on Wednesday is going to be released. So we're having a lot of fun there at Pop Culture 5. Check us out.
Can't wait to check that out, Thomas. Looking forward to listening to that one. So appreciate you both joining us here. I also appreciate our presenting partner for the show tonight, and that would be latenighter.com. If you want to follow everything we're doing to see all the Maya Rudolph posts we have up and everything we're going to be posting towards the finale. After the finale, we have a ton of season 49 content, including statistics and everything, breaking down this whole season in its entirety. You got to follow us on social media at the SNL Network, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, especially to get notified over the summer when we are live with more content as we head towards the 50th. So make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review if you choose to do so. All right. On behalf of Rebecca and Thomas and everybody in the chat here tonight, my name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.